Chapter 1 of Book 7 of Metaphysics by Aristotle. From the statements that have been now made, it is necessary to draw our inference, and, collecting together a summary of the foregoing, to impose upon our remarks some termination or conclusion. It has therefore been stated that the causes and the first principles and the elements of substances are the subjects under investigation in the present treatise. Now, as to substances, some are acknowledged to have a subsistence by all philosophers. Respecting others, however, certain speculators have put forth from time to time certain peculiar opinions of their own. Physical or natural substances are acknowledged to have a subsistence, for example, fire, earth, water, air, and the rest of simple bodies. In the next place, plants and the parts of these, animals also and their parts, and lastly, the heaven and the parts of the heaven. But those certain philosophers who hold peculiar sentiments respecting substances affirm that both forms and mathematical entities or species are substances. But unquestionably, from the foregoing reasonings, the consequence ensues of there being other substances, I mean, the essence or very nature of a thing, and the subject. Further, in other respects, we may assume that the genus is substance in preference to the species, and the universal to the singulars. With the universal, however, and the genus, the ideas also are connected, for they seem to be substances according with the same process of reasoning. Since, however, the essence or very nature of a thing appears to be substance, and the reason or principle of this is definition, on this account we have settled various points respecting definition and respecting that which is essential. But since definition is a sentence, and since a sentence has parts, we found it requisite also to examine concerning a part what sort are the parts of substance, and what sort they are not, and whether these ought to be the same with the parts of the definition likewise. Further then, neither is the universal nor the genus substance, but concerning ideas and mathematical entities we will subsequently institute an inquiry. For, beside the substances of things cognizant by the senses, certain speculators assert these to have a subsistence. At present, however, let us treat of those substances that are acknowledged to have a subsistence, but these are sensible substances, or the substances of those things that fall beneath the notice of the senses. Now, all sensible substances involve matter, but substance may be considered as those things that may be classed amongst subjects in one sense as matter, but in another as the definition. Now, I mean by matter that which is not this certain particular thing in energy, but in capacity is this certain particular thing, and in a different sense definition and form are subjects. That which is this certain particular thing is separable from the formal principle of it. And third is that which is composed of these, of which alone there are generation and corruption, and which is a thing that simply has a separable subsistence. For of those substances which subsist according to a formal principle, some are capable of a separate subsistence, but some are not so. But that matter is a substance is evident, for in all opposite changes is there something which is the subject of the changes, as for instance in place, that which is now here, but again is elsewhere, and according to increase, that which is at the present moment of such a size, and the next less or larger, and according to alteration, a person who is now healthy, and at another time indisposed. And in like manner also, according to substance, a thing which now subsists in a state of generation is again, however, in a state of corruption, and that which is at the present time a subject as this certain particular thing, yet is at some future period a subject as according to privation. And, doubtless, the rest of the changes follow upon this. Yet this does not follow one or two of the other changes, for there is no necessity, should even anything involve local or topical matter, that this also involve matter, both such as is generable and corruptible. What, then, is the difference between simple production and that which is not simple production has been declared in our treatise on physical phenomena. Chapter 2. But since the subsistence of substance as a subject and as matter is admitted by philosophers, and this is that which subsists in capacity, it remains that we should state what that substance is amongst sensibles which subsists as energy. Democritus, therefore, assuredly seems to be a person who considered that, in regard of this, there are three differences, for he was of opinion that the subject body and the matter were one and the same thing, but that the difference lay either in the rysmos, which is figure, or in the trope, which is position, or in the diathege, which is order. But there appear many existing differences, as, for example, some things are termed substance from the composition of matter, as, to give an instance, whatsoever things are formed by mixture, such as mead, which is a mixture of honey and water, and others are termed so from a wooden fastening, as a chest, and others from a string, such as a bundle, and others from glue, as a book, and others from many of these, and others again are said to subsist from position, as a threshold and the lintel of a door, for these differ from circumstances of position in a certain respect. Other things, however, derive their being from time, as dinner and breakfast, and some from place, as the winds. And some things are styled differences from the passive properties of sensibles, as, for example, hardness and softness, and thickness and thinness, and dryness and moistness, and some are so termed from certain of these qualities, and others from all of them, and in general some from excess, but others from defect. Wherefore it is evident that the fact of a thing's subsistence is denominated in thus many ways, for a threshold is a threshold because it is situated thus, and its subsistence signifies that it has this position in this way. And the subsistence of ice signifies the fact of its congelation in this form. And the subsistence of some things will be defined by even all of these circumstances, and this because some things consist from the mixture of some things, but others from their temperament, and some from their connection, and some from their condensation, and some from their employment of other differential qualities, as either the hand or foot. Therefore must we take into consideration the genera of differences, for these will be the first principles of subsistence, as, for example, those things which have their subsistence in the more and the less, or the dense and the rare, and the other properties of this kind. For all these belong to excess and defect. If anything, however, has its subsistence in figure, or smoothness and roughness, all things will subsist in what is right-lined and curved. Now, to some things their subsistence will consist in their being mingled, and in an opposite way their non-subsistence will consist in not being mingled. It is therefore evident from these foregoing statements that if substance is a cause of the subsistence of each thing, that in these must be sought the solution of the question what the cause of the subsistence of each of these is. Substance indeed, then, is not any of these, or a thing that is connected together, nevertheless it subsists analogically in each thing. And as in substances, whatsoever is predicated of matter is actual energy. This also, in an eminent degree, is the case with the other definitions, as, for example, if it be necessary to define a threshold, we will say that it is a piece of wood or stone situated in this way, and if a house, that it is bricks and timbers disposed in such or such a way. Or shall we further say that likewise the final cause exists in the case of some things? And if we are called on to define a lump of ice, we would reply that it is water congealed or condensed in this form, and if symphony is to be defined, that it is a particular sort of mixture of the sharp and the flat, and we must proceed in the same manner with other things also. It is evident, therefore, from these statements that there is of different matter a different energy, and a different definition, for of some things composition is the energy and form, and of other things mixture, and of others something else of those particulars enumerated above. Wherefore, of persons engaged in defining things, those on the one hand who say what a house is, that it is stones, bricks, timbers, speak of the house in respect of potentiality or capacity, for these are matter. But those who say, in addition, that it is a receptacle preservative of goods and bodies, or that it is some other such thing, speak of the house in regard of its energy. And those who put both of these together speak of the third substance, I mean, the substance composed of these, that is, of potentiality and energy. For the definition that subsists by means of differences seems to be that of form and energy. But that which consists from things that are inherent appears to be the definition of matter rather. In like manner also does this consequence result unto the definitions which Archytas admitted, for they are compounded of both together, as for example, what is a lull? Stillness in a mass of air. The air in this case is matter, but the stillness is energy and substance. What is a calm? Smoothness of sea. The subject in this case as matter is the sea, but the energy and form are smoothness. Now it is evident from what has been stated what sensible substance is, and how it subsists, for the one thing is as matter, but the other as form when it is energy, but the third is that which is composed of these. Chapter 3. It is requisite, however, that we should not be ignorant that sometimes it escapes our notice whether the name signifies the composite substance, or energy, or form, as, for example, a house, whether it is a sign of that which is common to all houses, viz., that it is a shelter composed of bricks and rafters and stones disposed in this way, or whether it is a sign of energy and form, because it is a shelter. In the instance of a line, also, whether the name signifies that it is a duad in length, or, because of its being the duad, is a sign of energy and form. And in the case of animal, whether it is soul contained in body, or soul simply, for soul is the substance and energy belonging to a certain body. And animal also would be involved in both, not as what is predicated by one definition, but as in relation to one thing. These, however, differ in relation to something else, but they in no wise contribute to the advancement of the present investigation about substance, I mean that substance which is cognizant by sense. For the essence or very nature of a thing is inherent in the form and energy. For soul, I admit, and the being of a soul are the same thing, but the being of a man and the being man are not the same thing, unless likewise the soul will be styled a man, and so the being of man will be the same, no doubt, in one respect, but not the same in another with man. But the syllable does not appear to persons engaged in such investigations as consisting of the elements of speech and of composition, nor does a house seem to constitute both bricks and composition. And this supposition is made correctly, for the composition and the mixture of anything consist not from those things to which composition or mixture belongs. In like manner also it is not the case with anything else, as, for example, a threshold subsists from position, not position from a threshold, but the latter rather from the former. Nor is a man animal and biped, but must needs be something which subsists besides these, if these are matter, and which is neither an element, nor from an element, but the substance, and the thing which they take away they denominate matter. If, then, this is a cause of existence, and if this is substance, they would term this actual substance. Now it is necessary that this be either a thing eternal, or subject to decay, without being reduced to decay, and be generated without going through a process of generation. But it has been demonstrated and made apparent elsewhere that no one produces form, nor generates it, but that this particular thing is produced, and that what is composed of these is generated. But whether there are substances of things corruptible capable of having a separate subsistence is in no wise evident as yet, save that thus much is plain, that it is not admissible with some things at any rate, such as cannot possibly subsist, even beside certain particulars, say a house or a utensil. Therefore, perhaps indeed, neither such are substances, I mean sensibles, nor are these very things substances in any respect, nor anything else that does not consist naturally. For one may consider nature as alone the substance in things that are liable to decay. Wherefore, the doubt which the followers of Antisthenes and persons similarly uneducated indulged in, namely, that the nature of a thing cannot be defined, involves some opportunity of a solution at present. For what they say is that definition is a long sentence, but certainly as to the quality of a thing, what it is, though we cannot frame any definition, yet we can even give instruction of some kind or other on such point. As, take the case of silver, you may not be able to tell what it is, to be sure, yet you may say that it can be assimilated in its appearance to tin. Wherefore it belongs in fact to a substance of which it is admissible that there be a definition and formal principle, as for example of that which is a composite nature, whether it be cognizant to the sense or the intellect. But there cannot be such of those things from which these consist primarily, if the definitive reason has any signification in regard of anything, and it is necessary that the one be as matter, but the other as form. Now it is likewise evident on the supposition that numbers are in a manner substances, why it is that they subsist after this mode, and not as certain philosophers say, because they are a multitude or aggregation of monads. For definition also is a certain number, for both it is divisible and resolvable into indivisible elements. For formal principles are not infinite, and number is a thing of this kind. And just as when any of those things whereof number consists has been either subtracted from number or added to it, no longer is there the same number, but a different one, even though ever so little be subtracted or added, so in like manner neither will definition, nor the essence or very nature of a thing be any longer the same when there is a subtraction or addition of anything. And it is necessary, further, as regards number, that there should be something through which it is one, which in the present case they cannot assign. I mean something through which it is one, if number is one thing. For either it is not one thing, but is, as it were, a heap, or if it is, it must be stated what that is which makes it to be one out of many things. Definition also is one thing, and similarly, neither in regard of this which is compounded out of many things can they make assertions in this way. And this result naturally takes place, for it is a consequence from the same reasoning, and the substance in this way is one thing, but not in such a way as some would make out who say, for instance, that it is a certain monad or point, but that each is actuality and a certain nature. And as number involves neither the more and the less, so neither does that substance which subsists according to form. But if this be the case, it is that which is connected with matter. Respecting indeed then generation and corruption in regard of the aforesaid substances, in what manner it is admissible, and how it is impossible that they should take place, and regarding the reduction of definition into number, let the foregoing distinctions be set down thus far. Chapter 4. As regards material substance, however, it is necessary that it should not escape our notice that, even though all things are from the same primary nature, or the same things as those that are primary, and though the same matter be as a first principle, for things that are generated, nevertheless, there is a certain peculiar matter of everything. For instance, the first matter of phlegm is the sweet, or the oily, and of bile the bitter, or something else of this sort. But perhaps these also are from the same thing, and there are produced many substances of the same thing when one thing is the substance of another, as phlegm is from the fat and the sweet, if what is fat or oily be from what is sweet. And it is the case that it is from bile on account of the resolution of the component qualities into bile, as into their primary matter. For in a twofold way does one thing proceed from another, namely either because it will be in the way of progression, or of analyzation into its first principle. Now, on the supposition of the existence of one matter, it is possible for different things to be generated by reason of the cause which imparts motion, as both a chest and a bed are formed from wood. Of some things, however, the matter is necessarily different, when the things themselves are different, as, for example, a saw can never be made of wood, nor does it belong to the cause imparting motion to accomplish this, for it can never produce a saw of wool or of wood. But if, then, it is possible to make the same thing of different matter, it is evident that art and the first principle, as one that originates the motion in a thing, are the same. For if matter were different from that which imparts motion, the thing made or generated would also be different. When, therefore, one may investigate what the cause of a thing is, since causes are denominated in many ways, it is necessary to mention all the contingent causes, as, for example, what is the cause of man as matter, that is, the material cause? Is it the menstrual blood? And what is the cause as that which imparts motion, or in other words, the efficient cause? Is it not the seed, then? And what is the cause as form, or the formal cause? Is it not the essence or very nature of the thing? And what is the final cause of his existence? Is it not the end thereof? But perhaps both of these are the same, and it is requisite also to mention the most immediate or proximate causes. What is the matter of man? Not fire or earth, but that which is matter peculiar or domestic to the nature of man. Certainly, then, respecting physical and generable substances, it is necessary to advance forwards in our investigations in this manner, if one will advance correctly, since in such a case both these causes and causes of such a description are in existence, and if it be requisite to have a knowledge of causes. Concerning physical or natural substances, however, but such as are everlasting, there is another mode of reasoning. For some of them, perhaps, do not involve matter, or do not involve matter of this kind, but only that which is movable in place. And therefore, as many as possess a natural subsistence, but are not substance, these do not involve matter, but the subject to them constitutes substance. As, for instance, what cause is there of an eclipse? Say, what material cause is there? For no such can be assigned, save that the moon is that which is passive. And what is the cause of this phenomena? As that which imparts motion and destroys light, that is, the efficient cause, the earth. The final cause, however, does not perhaps exist in this case, and the formal cause is definition. Yet this is obscure unless the definition be along with the cause. As, what is an eclipse? It is a privation of light. And if this addition be made, that this privation of light is occasioned by the earth intervening in the midst, this will be a definition in conjunction with the cause. But in the case of sleep, it is obscure what is the first thing that is passive. Shall we say that it is the animal in its entirety? Yes. But in what part does this passive condition arise? And what organ is it that first undergoes this passive change? Is it the heart or something else? Then there is the inquiry by reason of what agency does this passive condition ensue? And in the next place, what is this passive condition? I mean, the condition that belongs to that particular organ, and does not belong to the whole body. Shall we say that it is such and such a kind of immobility? Be it so. But this is such because there is something to undergo an affection in the first instance. Chapter 5. And since some things are unconnected both with generation and corruption, and some are not so, as for example points, if they really subsist, and in general species and forms, for it is not whiteness that is generated, but the white wood, or if also everything which is generated from something, in such a case all contraries would not be generated from one another, but in a different way would white man be from black man, and whiteness from blackness. Nor of everything is there matter, but of as many things as there is generation and mutual change, and as many things as are without alteration, or are not, of these there is not matter. It involves, however, a subject of doubt, how matter, I mean, that which belongs to each thing, stands in relation to contraries. For instance, if the body be healthy in capacity, and if the opposite thing to health be disease, whether shall we say that both subsist in capacity? Whether shall we also say that water in capacity is both wine and vinegar? Or shall we say that the body is matter of health according to its habit and according to form, but that it is the matter of disease according to privation and according to corruption, such as is contrary to nature? And another certain doubt is there also why wine is not the matter of vinegar, nor vinegar in capacity, although vinegar is produced from this. And in respect of one that is alive, we may doubt whether such is in potentiality a dead body, or is not. But the corruptions subsist according to accident. The actual matter, however, of an animal subsists according to corruption, as the capacity and matter of a dead body, and the water also of vinegar, for from these are they generated as night from day. And as many things, therefore, as in this way undergo changes into one another, ought to revert back into matter. As, for instance, if from a dead body an animated one should be generated, it is requisite that the dead body should first be resolved into matter, in order that in this way an animated body might afterwards be generated from it. And in like manner vinegar must be resolved into water. Then will wine in this way be produced. Chapter 6. But bearing upon the doubt mentioned above, both respecting definitions and respecting numbers, is the question, what is the cause of their being one? For of all such things as have many parts, and of which the whole is not, as it were, a heap, but is something else, namely an entirety, beside the parts, there is a certain cause, since also in bodies, in some indeed, contact is the cause of their being one, and in others viscosity, or some other such passive quality. Now, definition is one discursus or sentence, not by a bond of connection, as the Iliad, but in respect of being of one thing. What, then, is it which makes man to be one thing? And why is he one thing, but not many things? As, for example, both animal and biped, and in the most eminent degree also, if, as some say, any animal in itself and biped in itself have a subsistence. For why is not man those very things? And why will men subsist, not according to participation of one man, but the participation of two things, both animal and biped? And in general, therefore, man will not be one thing, but many things, namely animal and biped. It is therefore evident that to persons treating the subject in such a way as they have been accustomed to frame their definitions and assertions, it is not possible to adduce a reason of this and solve the matter in doubt. But if the case stands as we say, namely, that one thing indeed is matter, but another form, and again that one thing subsists in capacity, but another in energy, no longer would the matter under investigation seem a subject of doubt. For this doubt is the same as if the round brass were the definition of a garment. For this name would be a sign of the definition. Wherefore the object of investigation is what the cause is, that the circular and the brass are one. No longer, however, does the doubt appear to remain, because the one is matter, but the other form. What then is the cause of this? Namely, that what subsists in capacity should subsist in energy beside the producing cause. I mean, in the case of whatsoever things there is generation. For there is no other cause of the sphere that subsists in capacity subsisting as a sphere in energy, but this was the essence in each thing. And as regards matter, there is one kind that is intelligible, and another that is cognizant by the senses. And as regards definition, one sort indeed is invariably matter, and another is energy, as a circle is a plane figure. As many things, however, as do not involve matter, either intelligible or sensible, forthwith is it possible that each of these be one certain particular thing, as that which is a certain particular thing is this particular thing as well as quality and quantity. Wherefore also there does not inhere in definitions either entity or unity, and the essence or very nature of a thing is forthwith a certain unity, as also a certain entity, wherefore also there is not any different cause for any of these being one, or of there being a certain entity in them, for immediately doth each constitute a certain entity and a certain unity, yet they are not inherent in entity or unity as in the genus of these, nor have they a subsistence as though they were separable from singulars. And on account of this aforesaid doubt, some philosophers maintain that participation, to wit, is the cause, and what the cause of the participation is, and what the participation itself is, they are in doubt, but some assign the intercourse of the soul as the cause, just as Lycophron, who says that science is the union of the act of scientific knowledge and of the soul. But others affirm that the principle of vitality consists in the composition or conjunction of soul with body. Indeed, the same reasoning holds good as regards all things, for also the being in sound health will be either the union or conjunction or composition of soul with health, and for the brass to be a triangle will be a composition of brass and of triangle, and for a thing to be white will be a composition of superficies and whiteness. And a cause of their speaking in this way is because they are searching for the uniting principle and difference of capacity and actuality. But, as has been said, both the ultimate matter and the form are the same, and the one subsists in capacity, but the other in actuality. Wherefore, the investigation of what is the cause of unity is similar to the inquiry into the cause of a thing being one. For everything is one particular thing subsisting both partly in capacity and partly in energy, in a certain respect, as one thing. Wherefore, there is no other cause, except there be something that can be shown to subsist as a cause, imparting motion from potentiality into energy. Now, whatever things do not involve matter, all of these are simply some certain particular thing. End of chapter 6 and end of book 7.